Hi, I'm Brian Alexander with Time, and I'm here with Elon Musk, who has been dubbed the real-life Tony Stark, and who is also the founder of PayPal, the founder of Tesla Motors, and the current head of this company, SpaceX.
Right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Kevin Lynn in Ann Arbor, Michigan asks, Tesla Motors was recently awarded $465 million in a loan from the federal government, and I believe SpaceX seeks money from the federal government as well. Doesn't this contradict your libertarian views?
And no, I don't think it does contradict those views because we're just living in very unusual times. We're living in times where capital availability is extremely difficult, and even the private markets are somewhat weak right now. This is the worst financial period since the Great Depression. So I think special times call for special circumstances, and I think in this time, particularly when you're dealing with something that requires an enormous amount of capital to get done, which is to build a car company, I think it does make sense to accept a loan from the Department of Energy.
Tom Hale in New York City asks, do you really think the electric car can replace the combustion engine?
I think probably within 20 years, a majority of new cars manufactured will be pure electric. It'll take another 10 or 15 years beyond that for the fleet of existing cars to be primarily electric, because it takes a while to sort of switch out things. But I feel confident in saying that within 20 years, probably sooner, the majority of new cars manufactured will be pure electric.
And what about planes? I mean, do you have any kind of timetable for that? You've talked about, it seems pretty hypothetical at this point. And when does the concrete work begin with that?
I do feel pretty confident that with what I know, what I've learned from doing SpaceX, which is an aerospace company, and what I've learned from doing Tesla, which obviously has a lot of experience with electric motors and batteries and that kind of thing. If I combine the knowledge sets of those two, then it's really ideal for creating a supersonic electric plane, right?
You're the guy.
It kind of makes sense.
I don't see anybody behind you.
Right. I don't know who's chased me on that one, but so I do think I've got the necessary ingredients to design the plane and make it work. I just need enough bandwidth, personal bandwidth, to be able to get it done.
Andrew Colgreve from Perth, Western Australia asks, how did you feel when the Falcon 9 successfully launched and achieved orbit?
I was definitely elation in that case. I was super excited and glad, and it was, there was a lot riding on that rocket beyond just SpaceX, because we're really at this historic inflection point for a transition to commercial space, and the success or failure of Falcon 9 was, at that point in history, really could have shifted that whole debate. NASA is right now moving towards commercial. The president is moving things towards commercial, but there's a lot of opposition in Congress. Ironically, a lot of that opposition is coming from the Republican side of the House. I think it's somewhat not well reasoned. It's sort of strange that you'd have some Republican senators and congressmen opposed to commercialization. They think the public option is terrible unless it applies to space. Doesn't make any sense.
Eric Kulu from Tartu, Estonia asks...
Wow. From Australia to Estonia.
Yes, we give you the world here at Time. SpaceX was founded with the long-term goal of enabling humanity to become a spacefaring civilization. Are you hoping to see that in your lifetime?
Yes, I really am. Now, of course, it depends on how long I live. Within 40 years, we could be a spacefaring civilization. The critical breakthrough, technological breakthrough that's necessary for that is to create a truly reusable rocket system. Launching expendable rockets is nice, and yes, we can be a very successful rocket company, and we could even be the overwhelmingly successful rocket company. I think there's a good chance we could be the main, have a very high market share and really be the, quite dominant in the aerospace launch. But nonetheless, if we do not make reusability work, I would not consider it to be a success.
What advice would you give to young persons of developing countries who are seriously considering to be an entrepreneur but still feeling a bit wobbly?
you really, when you're trying to create a company, what you're really trying to do is organize a group of people to do something useful. And something useful is as measured by other people who are the consumers of your products and services. But this may seem like an obvious thing, but often people will organize groups into a company that doesn't produce something useful. Or that other people consider useful. So you definitely want to listen to any positive and negative feedback that you get, which is not to say that you believe it, but you need to look at it, any positive and negative feedback, and say maybe it's correct, maybe it's not, weigh it up, and just sort of carefully reflect on all the information you receive.
But don't be afraid to pull the trigger, even in this, if you got the goods.
Yeah, exactly.